All right, here's our video today. Eating and oxidative stress. And in simple terms, when you overeat or when you eat junk food, when you eat processed foods, foods that are simply, not healthy. When you're eating these foods or when you overeat or when you eat a lot of saturated fats, you put stress on the cells. You put oxidative stress. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the oxygen, the free radicals, and we'll talk about how you can fix it. Although remember, though, this is not a health video. So another name we can put up here, oxidative stress. Remember, it has to deal with oxygen, and we'll break that down. But it's also called nutritional oxidative stress. There it is. And the cause of it are free radicals, which I'll explain. Explain the free radicals. So what happens is when you're eating, again, like I said, when you're eating, and this happens. This is a temporary thing. It happens, but again, when you're eating processed foods, again, these free radicals will overwhelm the antioxidant defenses, especially following a meal in high processed foods, refined carbohydrates, unhealthy fats, all those foods you should be avoiding or just have them in moderation. So the body naturally produces free radicals, naturally does it. So we'll say it naturally produces it, naturally produced. We'll talk again what free radicals are. It happens in the byproduct of cellular metabolism. So maybe we should talk about that first. Well, let's get a clean page here. All right, over here, if I get my pen working. Over here, these right here, these are the free radicals. And over here, let's change the pen. Looks like a piece of candy. This giant thing over here, this is an antioxidant. Again, change the color. And right in the name, anti, against oxygen, right? So it's trying to destroy the free radicals. So again, during cellular, and let's write that down, cellular metabolism, or cellular respiration. During this process, when you're taking food and you're making energy, right? So in basic, simple terms, we want to try to take that glucose from food and to make ATP. And ATP, the most ATP is generated in your mitochondria. So write the mitochondria over here. The powerhouse of the cell. You probably heard that many times. So when you overeat, your mitochondria, let's write that down, mitochondria. You have a lot of mitochondria in each cell. It's not just one that you might see in pictures. So the cell's powerhouse, the mitochondria, and again, this is in animal cells, but again, this happens in plant cells with chloroplasts also. So when you're overeating or you have excess calories, the mitochondria could be overwhelmed with fuel. And what happens is, in simple terms, is you get this kind of a leak of oxygen or superoxides, and those are the free radicals. And it could happen again with excess calories, high carbonated meals, especially refined carbohydrates, simple sugars. Anything that could lead to a spike in blood glucose, high fat, saturated, and trans fat meals, it could happen also. So again, when you normally eat, what happens is these free radicals, these antioxidants, right here, again, right here in the arrow, they're going to destroy the free radicals that could destroy your cell. Let's go back to that picture. So here's a normal cell. Make sure my pen's working. Here's a normal cell. Of course, it's not blue, but so we have a normal cell, and then we have these free radicals, again, attacking it. And if there's no antioxidants around, well, it can cause some damage to the cell. And in this video, we're just talking about metabolism, what's happening when your mitochondria is overwhelmed. But you can get free radicals also from, as you can see in the picture, ultraviolet light, air pollution, radiation, and so forth. But again, we're just going to talk about eating, just the eating part of this. And again, the consequences of this, you can have vascular damage, especially repeated oxidative stress, repeated where you're constantly eating these ultra processed foods. Even high temperature cooking, like grilling and frying, can create it. Not to say you can't have this stuff. Everything in moderation. But vascular damage, you can inflammation, metabolic disorders like type 2 diabetes, obesity, insulin resistance. So there's a lot of reasons why we want to manage our oxidative stress. So it happens normally, and the savior would be antioxidant rich foods. So let's put that down. So again, we're right over here. Again, this is not a health video. Check with your doctor. Just saying what it is and what could stop it. Antioxidant rich foods can help mitigate this oxidative stress. And again, fruits, they're key, vegetables, basically anything healthy, right? Any plant-based foods, vitamins, they're all antioxidants. And if you are having meat and so forth, you want to make sure it's not so processed. And of course, the ultra processed foods would be like junk food. Let me see if I can review the steps for you very quickly. A review of steps. So again, the first is when you're having rapid digestion and glucose. So when you're, let's say, step one, that you're ingesting, fancy word for eating, you're ingesting processed foods. Or you're eating a lot, or simple carbohydrates. What happens is that there is a rapid hydrolysis. Blended the R and the O there. You get the picture. Rapid hydrolysis. And basically what's happening here is there's a massive absorption of glucose is going to go into the intestines, the small intestines, and into the bloodstream. So what happens is when glucose is in your blood, the pancreas is going to release insulin. Insulin attaches to your cells, and it it opens the door, so to speak. It knocks on the door, so to speak, for your cells, and the GLUT4 transporters will let in the glucose. But in this case, a lot of high blood glucose is entering. And that could cause hyperglycemia. It's a rapid, large influx of sugar, glucose, coming into the blood. So basically, with all these steps happening, is the mitochondria could be overwhelmed. That's what happens. There's too much glucose being converted to pyruvate and other chemicals. So in simple terms, the mitochondria is being overwhelmed. Too much fuel. Think of it as like a traffic jam or being overloaded. And by the way, in the normal body processes, when you have these free radicals, the body uses free radicals. The immune system does use them to kill bacteria and viruses. So there is a use for these free radicals, but too much is not good. That's why we need these antioxidants to help. So let's break down what they are again. All right, free radicals. They're free. Free radicals. Now, in the beginning we said oxidative because free radicals are oxygen. So basically what they are, we'll write it over here, it's O2, two oxygen molecules, and you see this a negative sign. So it's an oxygen molecule. It's an oxygen molecule with an extra electron. So it's charged. It's negatively charged with an electron, an extra electron, with an extra, stick it over here, an extra electron. And we write over here, they're unstable. And what they're out, and when you get these free radicals, since they have an extra electron, right, they're trying to steal electrons, from stable molecules. All right, maybe let me draw it actually. show you this. So O2 with a negative right here, this one right here. So if you think about regular oxygen, so let's say there's the nucleus, and there's the first shell, the ring, the cloud, or the energy level. So, and we'll put the electrons in red. So of course we have 2 on the first shell, and make another ring. Excellent circles making here, right? And so what oxygen normally has 6, so it needs 2 more. But what happens with O2 negative, right? It has an extra electron, so it's trying to gain another electron. So this is right here, and it will look mostly it'll look at any free radicals since they're so unstable. This is what we call oxidation. And it's important to know this, so let me say this again. Free radicals, like the picture you're seeing here, they can steal electrons from virtually any nearby molecules, but they mostly steal from lipids. And dealing with the cell, since the cell membrane is made of lipids, cell membrane, it could damage the cell membrane. There's fats that make up the cell membrane. So when a free radical steals an electron from a lipid, it damages the cell membrane. So there is the stress on the cell. So if I was going to sum this up, you could think of a free radical. It's an unstable molecule missing an electron. That's it. And so what the antioxidants do, they actually, to kill them, they don't kill them, they just make them stable by giving them another electron. So that's what antioxidants do. They just give them another electron, making them stable. So think of antioxidants, and by the way, antioxidants like vitamins, like vitamin C and so forth, they're like a playground supervisor. If you think about it, someone who's a teacher or a supervisor, think of them who, if they can stabilize a situation going on in the playground. So again, free radicals are trying to gain an electron, and the antioxidants will give them that electron. All right, and that's our video today.